Hi everyone, welcome back to another video. I thought I'd do another Ramble style video discussing another topic that's sort of close to me, which is my favourite TV shows. Now, the last one I did about movies did well and we got some good reception, so I thought I'd do one about my TV shows just to kind of let you guys know and hope that, you get a bit of enjoyment from it. Feel free to converse with me in the comments below on your opinions and your favourite TV shows as well. I'd be really interested to know. Right, so I've started by writing it all down. I've got some favourite genres, and then for each genre I've listed some TV shows, and I'll try and sort of maybe give a couple of reasons and just sort of speak about them and why I enjoy them. So I'm gonna run through some of the genres. So top one is comedy. If you couldn't tell from the movies option, that's quite big in what I watch. Then detective, reality / sort of unscripted, kind of medical drama-y ish, and thriller and fantasy are like the main genres. I know that covers pretty much every TV show in existence, but that's how I've broken down the options. The comedy options, so I'm gonna list the shows and then I'll go back and sort of talk about each one. So number one is Taskmaster. Now this is a very British comedy. Taskmaster, 8 out of 10 cats, Mock the Week, Friends and The Big Bang Theory. Now the first couple are very much English, very English style comedy shows. Taskmaster I think might be in the States a little bit and on YouTube and stuff, but it's a very English show and I really enjoy it. I think Greg Davis and Alex Horne work wonderfully together. They're a great comedy duo, and I think Greg Davis is hilarious on his own, so I'm a big fan. I only really watched it up to series 6 or 7, I think, mostly because the comedians I liked were on it, and then I didn't know the comedians on it after that, so I couldn't connect with it as well as I could on the previous ones. 8 out of 10 cats. I think this is a very funny show. Again, very English, kind of comedy panel show where they talk about facts and figures and they ask questions and try and get comedic answers. Very good. They did a spin-off called 8 out of 10 Cats Does Countdown, which is also incredibly funny. It had the late Sherlock, who was a fantastic British comedian who I think really was known worldwide for his incredible comic timing and just comic ability. But overall I really like the show. Jimmy Carr I do think is quite funny. He's not everyone's cup of tea, but I do quite like his comedy. Mock the Week I particularly enjoyed when I used to live with my parents, and I used to watch it with my dad a lot more older when Dara O'Brien was on it. I don't know if he still does the main one. It's like the host, but I'm talking like Hugh Dennis, Frankie Boyle, Russell Howard's time of being on Mock the Week. I always thought were really good bits of comedy and quite intelligent bits of comedy actually. A lot of it kind of like QI, but QI was a bit more on the serious intelligence for what I was interested in, if that makes sense. Then you've got like your standard Friends. Everyone knows what Friends is. It was a show I enjoyed as a kid, appreciated as an adult, and you know, I enjoy it. I think, you know, through life I've sort of linked myself to different characters within the show, and you know, I'm as most, I think, young middle-aged men are, I very much reside, or sort of see myself in Chandler, with a bit of Ross in there as well sometimes, but again, I'll happily sit there and watch an episode or 10 of Friends, and I do quite find it funny. I know some people aren't a massive fan of that style of show, but I quite like it. Onto a similar style of show, The Big Bang Theory. It was something that kind of came out when I was in secondary or high school, and I didn't really start watching it till later, when sort of later part of high school, and I got the box set for Christmas one year. Series 1 to 6, I think Series 7 was just airing when I got the box set, and I watched that box set over Christmas break and fell in love with the characters, just the whole atmosphere of the show. I just really, really enjoyed. I thought it was just a fantastic bit of, you know, TV. And even now, when my son was born, 3.5 years ago, I sat there for the first 2 weeks where you don't sleep, you're all over the shop, and we watched from series 1 to the last episode, which I did cry out, I'll be honest, because I never watched the last episode when it aired. I kind of kept myself away because I didn't want that story to end, if that makes sense. And I was dazed. It was like God knows what time at night, and we were just watching episodes back to back to back whilst we were feeding, and my wife was pumping. So it was quite an impactful series to watch, considering. And my son, even now, enjoys the show. I think he might have, you know, taken it in somehow whilst he was still a baby. On to my, probably, I would put it up with comedy as like my favourite genre, really. Like, I like a detective show, hence there's a lot of detective shows here. So, to list them out, you've got Castle, you've got Rizzoli Isles, you've got Criminal Minds, you've got Reacher, you've got NCIS Los Angeles for spin-off, you've got Sherlock, and I put Suits in this category because it doesn't fit into my other categories really, and it's kind of detective-y in a way. It kind of sits between, you know, drama and detective. So, but I put it in this category. Castle. Now, I used to watch this when I was in school as well with my parents. It was on Wednesday at 8 p.m. on the channel Alibi, and we all used to watch it together as a family, and it was incredible. Nathan Fillion, I dearly love as an actor, mostly because of Castle, but he just played the role so well. If you never watched it and you like detective shows with a bit of drama in there, it is honestly an incredible show. I'm a massive fan, and you know, all the characters I really liked. you know, the two sidekicks of Kate, awesome. I really like those characters. And yeah, I watched it up until it kind of went a bit off the rails, I guess is the best way to put it. And I've looked into the background and know that it wasn't an ideal set to be on from what I've read, and it's a shame because I really liked that series. It was going, the last two series were a bit odd and they threw a lot of spanners in that I was a bit unsure of, and I didn't quite like, but up to that point, insane. Still probably one of my favourite series. Resolving Isles, similar breath. We used to watch that. I think that was on like a Thursday or something, and that was, I rewatched very recently until I think I sort of watched up until about the last 5 episodes or something, where Jane leaves the NYPD to join, I think it's the FBI. But up until then I watched all of it, and I just love the characters. And one of the actresses, Sandra Alexander, I think that's her name, was obviously in NCIS in the early series, and that's why we started to watch it. And she's fantastic in that as Maura Isles. A really, really good TV show, clean. I like the writing, I love the characters, the family kind of intertwinedness of it. Really cool. Next, Criminal Minds. I mean, you watch detective show. If you watch detective shows and you've not watched Criminal Minds, some of them are hard watches, especially when you realise that actually a lot of the writing is based on real crimes, and sometimes that would kind of play on my mind, let's say. So yeah, it can be a heavy watch, those shows. But I started watching it with my wife, who was a massive fan, I think from like season 13 or whatever. I started watching it really late, and I fell in love with a lot of the characters. I think I got Morgan for like 2 series, and then he left, and I love his character, as I think most people did. And then I started rewatching it, I think 4 or 5 years ago maybe, and because we got Disney Plus, and they got the full series on Disney Plus from episode 1, and I watched the entire series. I watched the whole thing. I watched every character build. You had Emily left, you had a lot of rand agents. You had Jessica Love Hewitt dip in and out, and you just built so much rapport with these characters, and then the whole show obviously ended, and I remember me and my wife sitting there watching the last episode, and it was sad because we fell in love with these characters. It was like 17 or 18 series of you'd connect. And then obviously they've recently brought out Criminal Minds Revolution, I can't remember what it's called, but yeah, the new kind of era of Criminal Minds, and we watched it and we really like it. It's nice to see the characters come back, how they've wound or weaved COVID into it and how that's affected the team, and it's really interesting. If you've not watched it, Criminal Minds Evolution, that's what it's called. I'd really suggest it again. They're heavy watches, but really good. Reacher. I love this TV show. Now obviously it's more of a streaming show, but we'll call it TV show. On Amazon Prime, Alan Richardson, incredible. They do not miss. I'm halfway through season 3. Season 1 and 2 were fantastic. I binge watched them, I couldn't put them down, and I adore the series. I remember watching the Tom Cruise movies quite a few years ago, and I really liked the character then. I thought the movies were really good. I was actually quite a big fan. The kind of detective nature of the movies, and then seeing that on the screen, and Alan Richardson is incredible as Jack Reacher. I just really big fan. NCIS. Again, this was one I watched with my family, and I think I've rewatched it like 3 times, and there's like 20 series. But I will be honest, the original basic NCIS, as soon as Michael Weatherly, who played Anthony DeSanzo, left, I kind of stopped watching, because he was my favourite character. He held that show in my heart, and when they got rid of, or didn't get, he left, I couldn't watch it. And then obviously Gibbs, the character, left, and the whole the team that had been built over 15, 18, 20 series was crumbling away, and I'm just not there for that. But what's really cool is they're bringing out a Ziva and Denozo spin-off on Paramount Plus, which will be really interesting. But yeah, I used to watch this show religiously with my parents. On Fridays it was on at like 8 or 9 p.m, and I got to stay up to watch it because everyone watched it, and it was just so good. And I will happily binge watch any episode that's on live on TV, or I'll just go back and kind of watch it because I'm wanting something like that to watch. Love it. NCIS Los Angeles, another one I used to watch with my mum, because that used to be on like a Monday or something like that. So I used to watch that with my mum, and even now, I love it. LL Cool J, how random that he's in it, but fantastic as Sam in that show. Really love it. G, Hetty, incredible characters. I just love how they did what they've done with it. Deeks, Kenzie, they're just really cool characters, and I really liked them. I started rewatching it recently actually, from the get-go, and they just weave these stories through the episodes so elegantly, and it's just a really fantastic bit of almost cinema per episode, and I like the structure of the NCIS style shows anyway. Sherlock. Everyone's watched Sherlock, and if you're sitting there saying you haven't, you're wrong, or you need to go and watch it. It's a BBC show, English BBC, but I'm sure it'll be available in the States. Benedict Cumberbatch as Sherlock Holmes, Martin Freeman as John Watson. You'll never see a better iteration of the stories of Sherlock Holmes. Robert Downey Jr. did well in the movies, and I really liked those movies. Robert Downey Jr., Jude Law, they are fantastic movies. But the 3 or 4 series that the BBC did with Sherlock Holmes and Martin Freeman, I don't think can ever be topped as a Sherlock show. Honestly, they are my almost. I've not watched them for a while actually, because you you've really got to be ready to watch them, because they're an hour and a half an episode, and you get a rich storyline that you have to really sink your teeth into and absorb. Otherwise you miss so much, where you're kind of seeing it from Sherlock's point of view, and there's so many details and Easter eggs throughout the whole show that you're piecing it all together. And I think it's just fantastic writing. The last series was a bit hit and miss in some episodes, but even the first episode just has my spine tingling when I watch it, and just how they film it, the production. I'm a massive fan. One I forgot to put on here, which is basically a shame show, is Elementary, which is J.J. Miller, I think that's his name, who plays Sherlock but he's in New York, and Lucy Liu plays Joan Watson, who's his psychic. And I'll be honest, again, I rewatched that because I watched it with my mum, and it still holds up, and it's still an incredible show. I adore it. The character, the portrayal of Sherlock by J.J. Miller, I'm sorry if I got the name wrong, is honestly, hands down, a fantastic portrayal. And I was a bit iffy with some of the storylines they used. I thought the writing missed in some cases, but the character development was really cool. I like Sherlock's brother, obviously Mycroft, but the way they put him there, the way they had his father being rich, and that was just how he had a house in New York, and I wasn't a massive fan of, and but the characters that they gave us, really good. I really enjoyed it. House, Hugh Laurie absolutely kills it in a good way. I don't think you've got a better portrayal of a egomaniac doctor than Hugh Laurie as House MD. So again, great show. Started rewatching it last year, and just grew a new respect for it from when I did as a kid, to be honest with you. It was just, I didn't understand a lot of it when I was a kid, I think, like most people, and now I'm a bit more mature. I get a lot more with what's going on, and it got a bit repetitive, a bit like Suits, where it's always they know they're in the rare disease department or whatever it's called, so I get that, but it always seemed a bit like, it's a rare disease, we can't fix it. Oh, now we can. Oh, you're wrong, House was right in the end. But then they tried, changing it all up with him going to prison or something like that. I can't quite remember. But yeah, a good show. I'm going to speed through these last ones because I've been filming for a long time. So these are kind of drama thrillers. You've got The Boys, Mr. Robot, Doctor Who, and then the kind of Marvel TV shows, Luke Cage, Jessica Jones, Daredevil. I really like all those shows. I think The Boys, Doctor Who's my favourite, and I'm going to say something controversial. Matt Smith is my favourite Doctor Who. David Tennant reignited Doctor Who and is the best Doctor, I will grant that, but Matt Smith is my favourite. I can't quite tell you why, but I really, really like Matt Smith as a Doctor, and the whole Amy and Rory saga that they had with Doctor Who and with the song and all that, I think was just so well executed, and it just worked. Where you had David Tennant just going through, quite a few companions, it got a little, he had 3 or 4 companions to the David Tennant Doctor, and it just got a bit, always, moving on, and I think the fact they kept Amy and Rory around for a majority of time with Matt Smith, I felt was better, personally. The Boys speaks for itself. Messed Up, fantastic, awesome. Mr. Robot, incredibly well written, very accurate to actual back-end computer programming, at least from what I've seen online. That's what a lot of ethical hackers and people have said, actually, they've done their research. It's not taking the mick. It's genuinely well written. Rami Malek plays it excellent, as he does pretty much every role he has. And then the Marvel stuff, I think Luke Cage is my favourite of those series, only because it was the first one I watched, and I got hooked. Daredevil, fantastic. Jessica Jones, fantastic. Right, I'm going to leave it there, and feel free to have a discussion in the comments. I will chip in if you have any questions for me, or any opinions, or kind of disagreements, but I know you guys are not like that. So, but yeah, if you want to have a chat about the shows I've talked about, or even if you have a differing opinion to me or an agreement with me, I'd really love to hear that. We can discuss it in the comments below. Have a great day. Bye now.